has gone further. We've used technology to publicize the full financials in the media. So they will we've publicized the full financials, the full audit, so rather the full annual report, which includes the narrative on progress on a number of council programs. This meeting, the annual meeting, is regulated by the council standing orders that within 60 days of council approving the financials, we have to have this meeting, an annual meeting. And we are at a point where it's the council's end of term. So anytime the minister may announce that the council has to start in preparation for elections. We don't know when this will be. But when the minister does that, council is only allowed to have one meeting only to approve all minutes of all the work that may have been outstanding. That is all. And then they stand down. So because of that uncertainty, we've then had to make sure that we hold our meeting as soon as possible after the meeting, after the minister has approved the financials. As to there's also issues that sometimes are raised in terms of the lead time. Should it be 6 weeks? Should it be 1 month? Should it be a week? Should it be 2? There is the standing orders provide for council meetings that they may be held 5 days after a notice has been issued. That is what the council standing orders provide for. So I just thought I'll run through those. It's just so that we all understand on how we hear. The other point I wanted to raise was the limitation on space limitations. We don't have a huge hall in Mbabane. It's important that the meeting is held in Mbabane. So we are restricted in terms of the numbers that we can accept. This year, we are having a lot more numbers. In fact, last year we only had 48 that were allowed in because of the COVID rules. This we have invited well over 90 plus 100 people. So we have those restrictions, but to manage that and to make sure that there is opportunity for a lot more people to talk to the annual report, council then sets a series of ward meetings where a lot more people have the opportunity to interrogate, to raise questions, seek clarities on the performance of council. So I thought I'll run through that very quickly so that you can hand over to the mayor who starts the meeting. But before I hand over to the mayor, I'd like to introduce to you the councillors. Councillors are, as the meeting progresses. Now, I will ask each of the councillors to introduce themselves. Each councillor will indicate to what they are, what the area of the ward after indicating Mbabane.
The mayor, the CEO, honorable councillors, and honorable members of the Mbabane Municipal AGM. My name is Arnold Begumusa Katfuta Dlamini. I am from Ward 5. Ward 5 starts from Sandla and ends at Coronation Park. It includes St. Mark's area. We are rich in schools in Ward 5. Thank you.
Vusede ma councillor, onke ma stakeholders. Mine ligama lami ngingcouncillor Musa Dlamini from Ward 2. watu cala correctional services ahambe esitwashini enyuka endaba mhlophe ayofika eStibeni afake na Waterford. Thank you.
Angibingelele mayor, ngibingelele ema-councillors, ngibingelele ema-ratepayers, ngibingelele nema-stakeholders lakhona. Bese ngibingelela i-management yakamasipala. Mina ngukhansela Mbutfo Nhlengethwa, kaphuma ngikhiyeka Ward 3. Ward 3 uMangwaneni, ngumva kwelitshe. Ngiyabonga.
Honorable Mayor, councillors, management, stakeholders, Mbabane Ratepayers Association, siyanivusela bekunene. Councillor Kama from Ward 12, which includes, which starts from Mvuchini, the south of Mbabane, the welcome to Mbabane board. It is in my ward up until Isifige Eden. So that is where I am coming from. Siyabonga bekunene.
Morning, as Vusele Mayor, as Vusele Mbabane. My name is Tulani Dlamini. I'm from Ward 9. Ward 9 uqala a golf course unyuke undlule khula guest house uchubeke uye castle bese uyafika kule bridge la kuManjolo ne part of Pine Valley. Thank you.
His Worship the Mayor, CEO, attendees, and all stakeholders, good morning to you all. Longwaga Makakula Bongo. I representing Ward 10. Ward 10 comprises of Pine Valley, Dulwich East, Accord, Mountain Drive.
Sanibonani bekunene. Angivusele mayor, councillors, CEO, ratepayers, Tingundla East and West, ne management nonke bekunene. I'm Musamamba from Ward 11. Ward 11 starts from Corporation, Kopo, all the way to Fontaine. Ngiyabonga.
The last couple of issues I would want to mention is one, please, it's a council meeting. My council meetings, tincingo atikavumeleki. So please, put your phone on silence. Put your phone on silent mode so that we minimize its disruption. Secondly, I believe Lentla is where we have my toilets for if you want to just after a reception. That is where our toilets are. Sister uqala lo mhlangano now, and it will take more or less 3 hours looking at past presentations and questions. Takes about 3 hours, so we should be out of here around 12:30. We will try and speed up my presentation as far as possible. Now it's worship the mayor of the city. His Worship the Mayor of the city of Mbabane, Councillor Zephania Ngambule. He is from Ward 1. Ward 1 is the biggest ward in the city, and it comprises Bomauhalala, Bonge Bongwalini, Bagu Ward 1, right up until inclusive of Ibo SOS lenders Igo Ward 1. So that is the ward ya mayor. Will dolopha leMbabane. The mayor asale aqala nemhlangano. Ngicela sonke sisukume for the prayer.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be in this meeting to conduct the affairs of our city. We pray that we are guided by your wisdom throughout our deliberations today. We pray for your insight to lead with integrity and that our decision may reflect what is right and good for Mbabane. Help us make decisions that are for the good of all and guide us from blind self-interest. We give glory to you now and always through our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Application for Deputy Mayor. Later. Official notice and declaration. CEO.
Your Worship, as I indicated, we will be having a ward meeting starting next week. The schedule will be publicized in the media for combination of both the annual report and budget. Thank you, Your Worship.
As long as CEO, an opposed motion. Ngicela ngabe solo ukhuluma ngalewo annual report. So ke siyacela ukuthi sidabatisa abantu beMbabane ngeke bayikhulumise le ndzaba ingagcini namhla la. Asibonge. And then now sesingena to the annual report by the mayor. Now I have to make my speech. Honorable members of parliament for both Tinkundla in the municipality, parliament portfolio chairpersons of the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, senators and government ministry officials present here today, Mbabane councillors, invited stakeholders, which includes the Ratepayer Association, council management, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, sanibonani. I welcome you all to our annual meeting, which has been an imperative practice for the Municipal Council of Mbabane, as we are fully aware that fiduciary duty the people of Mbabane in our wide network of stakeholders. As an essential pillar of good governance and a requirement for transparency, Council will embrace their responsibility to report back to the stakeholders and let them know how they executed the duties instructed to them. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it gives me almost pleasure and honor to have the opportunity to report back to you about council performance in the 2021 and 2022 financial year. This is a significant year for the council. It marks the end of term for the councillors, who for the past 5 years been mandated by you, our constituency, as our role as councillors to play a key role in the development of the Mbabane city, while also representing the interest of all stakeholders and residents. This annual meeting is an opportunity moment for the stakeholders of council performance during the 5-year period. Council time in office has been guided by the municipal 5-year roadmap, which is Integrated Development Plan IDP of the 2019 to 2024. The IDP, which was development through extensive consultation of all Mbabane communities, encompasses the aspiration of all Mbabane residents and stakeholders alike. It is therefore the reason why today presentation will be emphasized the IDP priority area that include safety and security, the integrated public transport, effective infrastructure development, sustainable development for the city, enhancing special management and environmental. You may recall that in the past 2 years, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we had limited stakeholders attending this meeting. I am happy today that we are able to once again meet in this fashion. As a good practice that we are adopted from that time, council has availed the option for stakeholders to join the meeting remotely by following the proceeding live on our Facebook page. I am happy to report to our stakeholders that the annual report, as requested by stakeholders during previous annual meeting, was availed to all stakeholders on the 1st of September 2022 in our web platform to allow stakeholders to have easy access to the document. Also, I should mention that the audited financial statements were open for public viewing on the 1st of September 2022 between working hours at the council reception. This, ladies and gentlemen, addresses the concerns raised by our stakeholders. As I conclude my remarks, let me give special mention to the Honorable Housing and Development, Prince Simelane, for his council leadership during the council term of office. The ministry intervention on the many matters and challenges like those of Mangwaneni rallied to make Mbabane a stable environment focusing on the delivery of service and critical time during our term of office. I should also thank the council for having worked synergy during this period, demonstrating that trust and confidence of the people of has not been misplaced in us as council. In closing, let me once again welcome you all to this flagship event and request you to please feel at home. Kindly make notes of the issues you may wish to raise, and I will take questions and comments at the end of the presentation. I thank you all for honoring this invitation. Siyabonga bekunene. Asibonge, this time we will ask the CEO so that we go through the annual report department by department as is. CEO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will try to, there's quite a number of slides that we'd like to present, but we'll try to go through them as fast as we can, whilst making sure we are clearly highlighting your achievements in during your term. Next slide, please. The next slide. That's the outline of the presentation.
One concern that I would like to raise so that maybe can be considered, and that is the issue of the notice. We are aware that you did say something, but the notice for the meeting. The Ratepayers Association feel very strongly that this notice was not sufficient to give it time to actually reflect on what was going to be coming up. And the worst thing was that even as we're talking now, we've just received, I think that's where the main concern is, just received the financials, which is a very critical part of the report. And I'm sure everyone might be sharing the same concern present here. We're struggling now to actually, read financials and get through to understand what is there. And so we do feel that we might not be in a position to give a fair contribution on that aspect. So there is a proposition that maybe that AGM is postponed to a later date, or maybe specifically the financial aspect, because we haven't read them. We've just received them here, and yet it's so crucial, that one. I pushed. Yeah. Yield to my yeah, Mr. Bennett, to Eld, whatever.
Is the allowing somebody to talk? It's not you, Mr. Please, let's follow the procedure. Mana ngibona kahle usangidida lo futhi. But I think I've mentioned that we'll take questions and comments at the end of the presentation. On my speech there, I've mentioned that we'll take questions and comments at the end of the presentation. And I even said that to write it down. So with due respect, let's go on with the meeting. Then we will hear the comments after the presentation. Babe Bennett. Both. You can speak English and Siswati.
I would just want to seek clarity on the
please, with due respect, that's why I said at the end, we will answer the comments. So please, Redpayer Association, I believe that for election, I don't know whether a month ago, and we are ready to make an MOU with the council, so that some of the issues that we have raised here today, we discuss how we will handle it. So I believe that today we will go on with the meeting. We hear your comments and we'll answer them at the end of the meeting. When we come to the financial report, we will see how we go about. So CO, please. Babe Peneti, ngiyakuhlonipha kakhulu ngiyawuhlala ngicela ukuthi sikwende kahle because kimi umqoka isister as the mayor the comments.
Thank you, Worship. The outline of the presentation, Lena, the next. That's part of the outline again. Next slide. In the interest of time, I will try to run through my issues. Mayor has mentioned the pandemic was with us, you all know, and it affected a number of our programs. Sanga khona kuwenda kahle. And so we had to compromise in certain areas and make sure we see a push. Let's move on. What I want, the point was that in the last bullet is that this council, out of the five years, they only had 3 years fully. The other 2 years, partly with the COVID, and so a performance. But nonetheless, this is how performed overall in terms of the IDP. Just a quick reminder, the IDP is the Integrated Development Plan that was adopted by council after they came into office. And Leo plan was prepared following extensive consultation of all the stakeholders in Mbabane. And the overall council so far we stand at about 68% completion. We are still making sure that by end of the financial year, we believe we should be very close to where we expect it to be. And the last bullet talks to an independent assessment by Council Auditors, PricewaterhouseCoopers, on performance, organizational performance of the council, looking at the number. One, financial stability, good governance, administrative efficiency, project execution, and service delivery. All of these indicators were set by the World Bank as standard best practice indicators to be looked at when we are assessing on how a municipality is performing. And we've done very well there. We've got 89% overall in terms of looking at all of those indicators on how we're doing as a municipality. Next slide, please. Worked on trying to improve, making sure there are smooth relations, good working relations with other political structures that affects our operation, like Tinkundla, siyasibambisene nabo, sisebenzile nabo. We have gone to a point of establishing a coalition. We will be formalizing it in an MOU, hopefully tomorrow. But we've made sure there are no overlaps. We are clear who is doing what within the city. We've also met a portfolio committee, a ministry now, because they do oversight over a performance over a ministry and by extension over a council to explain to them the issues, our challenges, kakhulu ukuthi basisite eParliament to move certain pieces of legislation that depend on Parliament approving those pieces of legislation. Next slide. my councillors met 55 times over this year. That slide gives an indication ukuthi palo 55 umanjani compared to previous years. You can see we are where we should more or less be. Notwithstanding COVID, we've picked up and the council was able to make a number of key decisions that and monitor our operations as they should. And there is a prescribed number of meetings if the council even now. And this council met that criteria. We've met the right number of meetings, and we've also about adjournments. Sometimes we're plagued by adjournments in the past, but this council in this year, no, there've been hardly any. There's been no adjournment of mhlangano. We finished the business of the day within the time that had been prescribed. Thank you. Next slide. We have a responsibility as a city to also make sure the city is resilient. We can manage the disasters. We can recover quickly for disasters. And as part of that mandate, we are in constant engagement in NDMA, National Disaster Agency, and NEMET services, so that we are aware of what is likely to hit us and be in a position to warn the residents to take appropriate corrective action. It's through such relationships that we were able to, in fact, get additional technical support from NDMA to train part of our staff on how best we can improve the resiliency of Dolopa and make sure that we are able, the city is safe. Next slide. We have an internal audit unit within the council to make sure that our controls are up to speed. So a number of areas were audited, like HR, public information and relations, social services, and outsourced services were audited. And out of those 26 findings that were made, 14 have been closed, 12 are being tracked. By now, as I speak, they have been closed, but this is actually, and the council oversees more or less overall the monitoring of what the internal audit is doing. Thank you. Next slide. The council has been taking action to try and look for alternative sources of revenues and to try and diversify its operations. One of the projects that the council identified that may bring in additional revenues is redevelopment of the site bus rank. And we have continued to work on this. It be affected now by COVID, the interactions and the work being the time, but during the time we also got the opportunities to and we realized there was a need to review the agreement with, on the issues of contributions by each of the partners, and this was approved and done and signed off. A steering committee has been appointed and the SPV has also been formed. So we are moving forward. It's been slow, but we are expecting to pick up pace as we go. Next slide. Another flagship project, PPP, that we have is the redevelopment of the current civic center and relocating the civic offices from there. When we had finished the negotiations, as before COVID, no travel, nothing, we couldn't quite continue and to finalize that agreement. But since the relaxation of MR restrictions, we have met with the developer and iron out the issues that were outstanding. And we even relooked the agreement in terms of what we could instead of exploring a long-term lease format and see exploring what also know it wouldn't work if we are also looking at having a civic center as part of the park, as part of the and see signing. But we are hoping to see we will pick up Lalapo will pick up speed in development or in the potential of bringing in additional revenues to council from being a partner with this development. Just as the new mall, council in a shareholding Lapo and the council does get some additional revenue to supplement MRAs. Next slide. We have a couple of other small projects under PPPs that have been also concluded among negotiations. This is residential developments of Emma flats ngaleko checkers. So that has gone through approval processes and it's been and we've signed off on that. Next slide. We have LED local economic development strategies. A council has a number of areas like a council has directed with management activities to improve the local economy. And as part of that process, enabling policy framework, we have reviewed the service level for building application for construction. We currently we're standing at 42 days for the approval process. We have reviewed that and set our target now to 25 days. We will try and look at driving it even further down, but we expect within 25 days we should have the approval of any building application that has come through the council. We have also developed EMA guidelines for short-term leasing of vacant council and government land, and also trained EMA vendors, EMA SMEs. We have also facilitated EMA workshops for youth in Mbabane, several workshops for youth, and supported the youth in Mbabane to be part of the national organization of youth interested good business. We've strongly supported them up and setting up that organization and making sure we're working with other partners, international partners, it will be a strong organization for the youth to participate in the economic development of the city. Next slide. Mbabane also recognizes that we have a number of schools at Mbabane. We have an interest in making sure that these schools produce very good results and produce very good pupils at the end of the day. We have regular meetings in our principals, and I'm happy to say Mbabane continues to shine in terms of the performance of our schools. 80% of our schools make it to the 10 top 15, top 20 of the country nationally. Let's move on quickly in the interest of time. Yes, on information and public relations, we have engaged in media, married pairs and residents to clarify what the council is doing, to inform the public what the council is doing with my resources now. And we have also facilitated the mihlangano where possible during under the COVID restrictions. We have had ward meetings, and we will continue. We've announced we'll also be resuming again next week. We have encouraged the public participation in the budget preparation process, using social media in the absence of a meeting. Yes, we take EMA submissions la figure and make sure the council is aware ukuthi nange ama submissions la velako from the public on as part of the budget planning process. We have engaged technology, which is just like this meeting is being streamed alive. It's not just people that are in here. There's people listening in Lengaphandle and being development. Thank you. Next slide. We have been using voice of the church kakhulu on audio media, voice of the church. We have used them, and we're recognizing the biggest the media with the biggest listenership. Radio is Swati. We have facilitated working very much with the ministry in re-establishing a program at Asset Development. Radio is now back, and it's we share space with other towns and other units LTO in making sure that we do inform my residents, send our net European and or the issues they should be aware of. Over and above that, we have taken up space in my paper to publish what we are doing on a weekly basis. Thank you. Next slide. Moving on to public health services. Excuse me. To do what it can to protect the health of its citizens. And as part of that effort, we work with the Ministry of Health. We have been we've immunized over 3,000 bantwana per year as part of that program. Let's move on. Next slide. Yes, COVID testing. We were the center of the effort. Yahulumen developing Mbabane in making sure that there were available stations throughout the city for people to vaccinate, and our staff vaccinated, I believe, way over 12,000. Just our staff, let alone the other centers that were set up, way over 12,000 people were vaccinated. Next slide, please. On the treatment side now, because then we may prevent, but at some time people do get infected or do get sick. They need the support. We do offer support, and kakhulu we focus our effort on those that cannot afford. On those that cannot afford, we try and make sure that they do get support in terms of their taking their medication and being checked, being followed up. Next slide. We also have social centers again now, which provide a service primarily to those who cannot afford a development. And those social centers, anima crash, we also make sure we feed the kids and labo lesekulukhuni kakhulu khona over and above making sure they are fed 5 days a week. Ngema weekends they get a carry pack of kudla so that they are able to eat during weekends. We also wish to thank, we've had a number of residents at European that have also come forward and volunteered to support my social centers, a council, and provide food and provide clothing to those. And so siyabambisana nje kakhulu, and please labo who do want to partner with the council to help up those development, please come forward, and we do have a program very next slide. Next slide. Litigation, like any organization, council, yes, gets involved in litigation. We sometimes, yes, we have people who basibope, and we have to defend ourselves. And sometimes, as part of the requirement of the law, we have to enforce the law. So we have to litigate, public nuisance. We have to litigate overgrowth. So that is how we have been performed relatively very well, Lapo, because we have won most of the cases that we have had to litigate on. Next slide. The council is not only a body that execute legislation lebuya from government. The council is also a legislative body in its own right. It does promulgate legislation. The legislation promulgated by council largely it's called bylaws. Laws that have been developed by council that we have presented in our report. They are going through the various stages of approval. But getting to the submissions were made to the ministry on the proposed changes. Okay. We've made submissions to the ministry on the proposed changes, and the ministry is going through a procurement process of getting a consultant to move ahead with the Rating Act. The Rating Act has been delayed in the past also by a case lebe ikhona yakaManzini, which had then the court said that case had constitutional bearing, the constitutional issues, and would affect also the Rating Act. But unfortunately or fortunately, when the appeal court finally dealt with the case, they sidestepped the constitutional issues. They said there was no need to deal with the constitutional issues when initially the court had said there were constitutional issues and we should all be participating. But when they finally dealt with the case, they said no, that case, they don't need to deal with the constitutional issues. So where we were at right from the beginning, as far as that is concerned. So, but the main issue is that the ministry is working on a Rating Act review. They do have a budget, fortunately, this year, and they are working on that. Now, the other main act, Building Act, that regulates construction that takes place throughout the country and in the cities. The Building Act was reviewed and has been with the Attorney General for the past few years now. And for final touch-up, legislative touch-ups, we are hopeful that it does go through the Parliament during this session, because everything has basically been done. So we are really hopeful there. The Council has passed a number of bylaws, waste management bylaws, to try and improve the quality of waste collection at Dolopeni and how it's managed. Council has approved the public open space bylaw to regulate how our parks are used. Currently, there is no legislation in place that talk to how the parks are used and other recreational facilities. That piece of legislation is also with the Attorney General's office, who hopefully will be going through Cabinet and Parliament shortly. There's also the disaster management bylaw. The council also has deliberated on that, and now it's AG on the way to Cabinet. And council has also looked at my user fees for various services that are offered by council. They were last reviewed 4 or 5 years back. So there's a need for those to be reviewed such that they are up in line with the cost of providing those services, and making sure that only those who qualify for a subsidy do get a subsidy from a subsidization from MRAs. Let's move on. The staff complement, we have kept staff complement relatively the same over the past 5 years, and completed the last stage of restructuring, hence the reduction down to 103 employees. Let me talk a little bit on the restructuring and the impact. By making these staff reduction changes over the years since the restructuring started, a focus by council has been to be able, is that we need to be able to have flexibility to employ additional staff as and when it's required. As part of the LED project program, we monitor the impact of the outsourcing. The outsourcing has had. How much employment have we created? Our records show that post-restructuring, we have actually created about over 400 jobs that have been created. So some of the people that were laid off, in fact, have got alternative jobs, and other new people have also got employment following that process. Let's move on. A council does make sure that people that work for a council are trained, are competent. They have the skills. So a council has invested very much in making sure its staff is trained, as indicated by the table that shows quite a number of staff have been trained. And it's not just short-term training. Some staff have gone on to get degrees, master's degrees, as part and parcel of a program. But it takes those take a while to go through. But it's council's commitment to make sure that you do have qualified and competent staff to deliver services. Next slide. Law enforcement and crime in the city. Working with the Royal Police, we are monitoring the crime situation at Dolopin. Overall, the crime in Mbabane is better than other parts of the country. Is better, but the biggest the crime areas involve theft. Is theft and housebreaking. The others are really within control, but it's theft and housebreaking. As the table indicates, theft in G.O.2 was over 1,000, over half basically of the total, and yeah, that is where it is. And then you have both grievous bodily harm is 341 over 2,400 cases, and yeah. Robberies 215. We intend to monitor. We've established this relationship. We intend to monitor and fine-tune the metrics so that we can give you a better feel for what is happening where at European. That is the intention of picking up and working with the Mapoisa on having this report, so that we are able to say, oh, there's an upsurge of crime at Mbelihle, and we need to take certain steps. Residents are aware. There's an upside of crime in Mawalala. we need to share that information. So that is the intention of what council is doing here. But overall, in Mbabane, it's still it's a much better space to be crime-wise. Thank you. Next slide. We have a program at Lopeni to make sure that we offer. We have procedures in place such that the quality of services has to be up there in terms of what is required. And we have independent auditors coming in from South Africa, from a company called TUV, that audits us every year, monitoring our processes, our procedures, our policies, and our feedback mechanisms. And so they decide, depending on how we perform, on whether you get recertified, and look at the number of non-conformities, it's called, and areas for improvement. So we monitor that. We were the first city to do that, to get the accreditation. Nemanzini says Lanzele Jedi, now Sabana accreditation. The objective is to try and make sure there are systems in place so that the performance be up to scratch. Thank you. As part of that program, we monitor the number of complaints leswatolago. We monitor the number of compliments leswatolago. As you can see in that report, we had a slight increase in complaints from 59 to 63, and quite a big increase in compliments during the year from 23 to 42 during the year. Next slide. We have a town planning scheme at European. The town planning scheme is the document that legislatively controls what you can do, what you can use your property for at European. And we have to ensure that the developer, there's orderly development. We should not wake up Sasa to find umkuku just next to you, or something very horrifying, some development next to you. It's what you pay for, development, making sure there's certainty in the area you have chosen, because this is the types of buildings that will come up, this is the kind of development that will come up. And that scheme, I wish to point out again, now that scheme is developed with a lot of public participation. We had meetings after meetings of inputs from the public on how they would like to see their city developed. So our role is to make sure that every development complies then with the scheme. Next slide. Over a summary highlight in terms of what has been happening with regard to the scheme. Rezoning applications are applications where you want to change the whole character of a particular plot, what it was permitted to do, want to rezone it. It's a lengthy process, but it can be done. Special consent, where it's not a full rezoning, it's a consent for that particular person that to do something. It relates to that particular person. It doesn't change permanently, or it shouldn't change permanently the zoning of an area. Subdivisions, we've had an increase again of those. So you can see that there's been quite a number of increases in special consent and subdivisions and home office applications, businesses starting up this year compared to the previous years. And temporary building applications, these have gone down. We really don't know why, but they have gone down. Maybe it's due to the rain, because it was raining heavily this time round. There wasn't time to be, yes. Maybe people were, compared to what happened in 2021, where we had over 300 applications went through. There was a major reduction in this last financial year. Next slide. Street name, there were a number of streets in recently approved townships that went through the process of being named. Again, this was a process involving the public. The names were publicized. The committee involved members of the public that decides or proposes the names to council to approve. And then it goes to the ministry for final approval and gazetting. So those names have now been put up in a number of those areas. Next slide. Yeah, upgrading of informal settlements. About half of Mbabane is informal in character. Half of Mbabane is government land. Now, government, the city, to use that land to develop townships, plot, and allocate to the residents that are there. This started way back under UDP, called it UDP 1, which involved Bomsunduza, it involved Bongwaleni. And the council has said, and this is now involving the other 9 informal settlements that have been listed up there. It's quite an involved process, involving the public, involving the residents, and because of the lack of funds, we are having to rely on my offices ahulumende for a lot of the work, like office like Surveyor General. We have to rely on them to pack the plots and approve the approval of the townships. It's quite a lengthy process, and as part of that process, we involve environmental audits, which are required before you can register a township, and that again is expensive. Per township is more or less plus or minus 350,000 per township that you have to pay for. And again, it's a process that involves the resident, it involved environmental authority, and it takes quite a while. So we are working on those areas. We are making good progress in some cases, but we are so dependent on government institutions approving. So naturally, basically, slow, and it leads to a frustration kuma residents because up until they have a plot of their own, they are not permitted to build fully permanent structures with designs of their own. So the structures like home can only be repaired and maintained as they are, and that is what is called the building ban informally. And we are this council, I can tell you, this council has been very much focused in moving forward, getting that movement on that program, and getting those areas now to develop, and getting those areas to also be able to start paying rates at the end. Quite a number of them are now paying rates, Msunduza, and that way under UDP 1, and Msunduza and Abomawalala, they are now also paying rates. But the idea is everybody should have, who is entitled, should own a plot and be able to contribute in the development of the city. We have also started on another, over and above the 9, we're also looking at parts that were left behind in UDP1, labo PTS, nabo Kopolo, Bomncithini. We also have started that process again. We're in meetings detailed on the ministry, discussing some of these the issues, the bottlenecks, and what can be done to improve the pace of implementation in Clayton's audit. Next slide. Yes, this is referring to the collection of plot payments, UDP1. Part of the reason why it's been delayed, there's been a delay, is because the collection has been relatively slow. It's been relatively slow. Kule tindzawo leseta that have now been developed in terms of having infrastructure, plots, but the payment for those plots has been slow. We have been going out using a number of media to encourage speedy payment, because it's from that money that we are then able to do the other 9. We've tried to minimize use of ratepayers' money, and we are using largely the money from the UTP1 to try and get the other areas developed too. Next slide. Yes, Lapa, this is again, we're just monitoring on the UTP payments. Next slide. Of those that have been paid, zone 2, zone 4, Mahwalan, a number of them have not been registered in the name of the person who has bought the property. We are trying to encourage people to register, because if you haven't registered the property, it's still not yours. It's still not yours. If you were to pass away, it creates problems for your family. So we please, if you know somebody who owns a property up there, encourage them to pay. There was also a belief, a mistaken belief by some of them, that if you haven't registered, you don't have to pay rates. We are also trying to encourage them. No, that's a mistaken belief. The Rating Act doesn't provide such an exemption. It doesn't provide such an exemption. It was a decision of government at the time that they will give the people 5 years to pay, after which the rates should come in. Yeah. So people, some people have now only just now realized it, and yes, they are coming forward to pay. Let's move on. Next slide. Yes, in the informal settlements, largely again, we've had quite a number of in community meetings, largely to discuss progress on the developments, the informal, rather on the 9 settlements. Over and above that, the council substructures, that is local community committees, were also convened, and again with the restrictions here, COVID, unfortunately in a number of areas, but we have tried our best to make sure we mihlangano iyaqhubeka. And let's move on. Environmental health services, food inspections. The council has a responsibility again, health, making sure that the food you eat is prepared in an environment that is safe for you to eat the food. A number of premises get graded. My restaurants, my bakeries, my supermarkets, kanjalo. Again, Mbabane was a trailblazer here. We're the first city to start the grading process. A lot of towns have here, and I have followed. So we grade the cities, and the businesses, and the businesses about grade A to C are the businesses to eat in. Lamanye, you need to stay away. The good news is this year most businesses that we assessed are both A and B and C. We don't have the both D and E this year. Next slide. That's just a slide that shows what I'm talking about in terms of Labo. The blue is the A, and the green is the A, the blue is the B's. So we have a lot more A's and B's. In total, we have a lot more A's and B's. Let's move on, which says your food in Mbabane generally is good to go. Public health, nuisance control, we also, people complain, raise issues about the neighbor making a lot of noise. They raise issues about overgrowth, etc. So we do record those complaints, or those nuisance control complaints, and attend to them. Next slide. Overgrowth, for over the past 5 years, this has been the situation. The blue, your reports, you say nago kalangani. The orange, it's la corner has been cleared. The gray is when we've had to take people to court. We first give you an opportunity to clear your property, but if you fail, we then need to take you to court. And it does help. As you can see, we last did that in 17, 18, and because of the increased number of complaints in 2021, we've now again had to take quite a number of people to court to get the court directive to ensure they clean their plots. What we now do is we get a kind of court order that is more or less permanent. If you fall back subsequently, so sekufana uphule court order, you then which is now very serious. So we do try to encourage bands not to maintain their properties in good nick overall. Next slide. It council's performance on the environment has been recognized nationally. We won a award from a ministry responsible for natural resources, environmental management issues. We won an award, that was last year. We've also won again this year, this current financial year, a month ago, against Pizzesa winner. So we are doing the right things as far as the international benchmarks are concerned. Next slide. We have a laboratory, an approved laboratory council that monitors water quality, monitors your milk, monitors some of the products that are sold in the supermarkets, and the laboratory does assist us again on those that depend on springs and my informal settlements. We are able to tell them, to inform them, because these particular springs, those areas are not safe. And so please, you don't use lao mandila, try and use safer sources. Next slide. This slide essentially is saying, you see, our testing says that in general, 79% is found to be conforming in the laboratory. There are those 21% that are not conforming. Those are then, yes, the stakeholders, the affected stakeholders are engaged, and where necessary, the food or the water is condemned and destroyed. Next slide. Waste quantities have gone up. This is waste going to our landfill. Has gone up. The main reason we believe is twofold. Next slide is twofold. It relates, one, to the rains. It relates to the rains. Two, it relates to COVID. Because of the COVID and the rains, we are not able to recycle as much as we were recycling before. And so hence a lot more waste is getting to the landfill. We have a program to try and encourage people to recycle at source, so that as much as possible, very little waste goes to the landfill. The council has also taken steps to try and improve efficiencies in waste collection. The council has modified trucks so that the trucks can also collect bins, rather than having the trucks collecting door to door and having another specialized truck collecting bins. The trucks can now collect both, so which saves on the number of trips, because the skip trucks would only collect one skip at a time. This truck, the big truck can take up to 6 of those. So we're making a lot of savings in terms of fuel and in terms of the vehicle cost, operating cost. Let's move on. The council has also added the number of skips that are there. What does this mean? It means a lot more people in Mbabane are getting serviced. We have improved the coverage from 91% to 96% in as far as the coverage for refuse collection, which is quite high. I don't believe there's a town level of efficiency in terms of rather collection coverage. Perhaps possibly the others I don't believe they are where we are. Thank you. Next slide. I think I've already covered, yes, the waste recycling issues which contribute to increased waste. Next slide. Yes, as you can see, the last one, 2021-22, is far lower than the previous year in as far as the recycling. Next slide. Parks and recreation. The council has a responsibility to make sure we do provide parks are part of that, and when making sure that we plant a lot. We have a program to plant a lot more trees and make sure that people, when they have to remove certain trees, they need to plant trees. That provides a much better environment overall. And in Mbabane, we have quite a lot of trees in the city. Further, we have developed other recreational facilities at Delopeni, outdoor gym, maze, etc. Let's move on. Yes, biodiversity. Bosandanes, we have a program to there's an increase. Bosandanes, we have a program to educate the public in Mbabane to be aware of what these invasive and alien plant species are. We work with schools, we work with the markets, communities on that, and we see our sprayer to mitigate the proliferation. Next slide. Yes, now tree planting, Mbabane hedge planting is gone up sharply, so we've really put a lot of effort there. Next slide. Yes, this is a new maze, the Coronation Park, which will be good for kids to go play around. Right now, the play area saying so by having a maze, and Nabo, they can a lot more kids can have fun. It's within the Coronation Park. Next slide. Brush cutting again. Let's move on. Next slide. We council approved a policy of management and monuments, because the council would like to see a lot more monuments, especially of historical figures in the country being put up, and everyone who has traveled around has seen monuments, monuments. So the council approved a policy to regulate that, and we should be putting up a lot more as going forward. And we have been managing our open spaces and making sure that the grass is cut during the year. And let's move on. Cemeteries, we're monitoring the number of people. As you can see, 2020 and 2021, the figures jumped, COVID. So we had a lot more people that had to be, unfortunately, interned in our cemeteries during those 2 years. Next slide, please. We also in Mbabane last year held a marathon at Delopeni. It was very popular. A lot of people attended a marathon, which was great for the town. And we have also upgraded the other recreational facilities, as I've mentioned. Next slide. Mayor lapha making it go kule public gym. A public gym is for those that cannot afford to go a club to have their own gym back home and up there in public. It's something you will find in a number of the big cities. Public gyms. Makes me sure everybody is healthy, and we are encouraging the old age at Dolopeni, because the bayetela to exercise so that they will live longer in community. Next. Now, technical services and stormwater management. We have taken major action. This council, Logiefega, has been aware of the complaint about the storm, the flooding at Plaza, and we've taken action this year. We have improved the capacity of stormwater drainage system here at Dolopeni, and we should be reaping the benefits going forward of that action. Next slide. And also we've had an extensive road rehabilitation program in a number of our roads at Europe, and this involves resealing, it involves constructing new roads, it involves concrete strips in certain areas last deep. So we have really gone all out to improve Imigwaqo at Europe and make sure that the transport system here works very well. Let's move. There's a number of streets, it's covering a number of areas at Elopen. But let me say this. This is not adequate. We know the level, the quality of our streets right now. We need to do a lot more. But unfortunately, it costs a lot more money. It costs a lot more money. But this council has been focused about at least making sure that we are there. We are making sure, especially in the CBD, as all our roads are up to speed, and the feeder roads leading into the city. We will be continuing with that, and we are also asking government to support in that to do a lot more roads if we can. Let's move. Yes, this is pictures of the roads that have been done. Next, let's move on. Graph ceiling, yes. Again, number of street maintenance. Pothole repair, yehlile. Yeah, yehlile, pothole repair, yehlileni. There was so much rain. It was a wet, very wet summer that we had. Now, wet summer, if it gets too wet, you're wasting money if you will be patching a pothole immediately after it rains. It needs to dry out for permanent patching. Otherwise, it's just a bandage treatment. It's just a bandage treatment. You need to allow it to dry out, then you can do more permanent repairs. So we had so much rain at the time, but what we are doing this year, we are trying to get a lot more attention to be done in the dry season on areas that have a potential to develop potholes, because we will try and get those attended good dry season, so that singatitholi running when the rains come in December. Next slide. That's the graph that basically is showing what I'm talking to. Next slide, please. A council is Mbabane Township Development. A council has a program to try and also develop a township. Now, the concept is that if council can develop the greenfield side of Mbabane and make money from that process, that money can be used to, government is not coming forward for the upgrading. It can be used to the informal part of Mbabane. He contributed to at least putting through some of the basic component of that infrastructure, and then enable plots to be sold, to be allocated to the people that are informally occupying. Stephen kungale ngase Waterford. There's a part Waterford kale le informal settlements le khona lapho plus Greenfield. Next slide. What you need scenario is we reported last time there's a strategy that was developed. The aim of the strategy is to improve the quality of our public transport in Mbabane. Now this involves better attention to the bus rank. It involves establishing satellite bus ranks. We established one a Fontaine last year, and we are working in other parts of the town now, like satellite bus rank again, so that we can improve the public transport system. We're also working on a piece of legislation to regulate the public transport operators in Mbabane. We also got a site, a CTA, on the far corner, a CTA that will be used as a holding bay to better improve the operation of the main bus rank. Next slide, please. Yeah, that is the Fontaine bus rank there. Next slide. My financials. Now, Director of Finance to assist Mayor to present my financials. Thank you.
Si presenta ke ma financial statements at 31st March 2022. The audit report my external auditors, and may I mention that the audit has looked at our income statements, the statement of financial position in the old
and ngiyakuva wePenet you are raising ukuthi unema comments kulele kusuka kiyo. What I can do lana ukuthi let's hear the comments, but now angabi mathe abe brief ukuthi kule presentation lethuliwe, because it deals with my communities where we come from. Si raise those questions, then sitawungena kulena le financial report I believe ukuthi bengishito nakuqaleni ukuthi it's not the end, setawuqhubeka iye kuma wards ikhulunyiswe. But for the sake ukuthi ukhanza leminye imibuzo bese kuba bantu bayakhohlwa. Lesiye lama comments kule le report lethu lengu-CEO, then sithathe siyangena kuma financials. But now abe brief to the point, singasitokwathi lokuthi siwaphendule. Siyabonga. At this point in time, I think we have to give those comments. Imani ngiyasitheka lapha kumna yethu. Sibanike as
Thank you. Thank you. Ngangosi la Dariak on Kaka 126. I would like to say thank you to the sitting manager, chief executive, sorry, for a few things but I also would like to have a general comment on particularly the participation of the ratepayers collectively with the city council, making our city more habitable. The problem is the formalization of any view on the performance of city council it makes it very difficult for some of us writing things to city council. I would like sometimes to meet anybody, and most of these guys was city council, to make comments with them and said purely as advice, because we are all of us monitoring the performance of this thing here. It's not just the council alone, because it belongs to all of us. So I would like us to understand that we are not criticizing city council when we are monitoring. We are purely advising. That's the meaning of the word monitor, from Latin, which means I advise. Now, thank you very much, for one thing, the local economic development. That local development strategy I'm very much in support of it. But in the report, the participation of the ratepayers in that local economic development only mentioned the youth, which is very good because they are the majority at the moment. We are on our way out. And it is very, very good. But the modalities of actual participation are not quite clear. How can we also contribute towards that local economic development? It's not just participation on from top to bottom. It can also come from the bottom. And in fact, everything must come from the bottom. Every time it's got a different levels of bottom. We all are all moving up, so we must move together. I'll just make points. I don't want to overgrowth. City Council, I think you have been a bit laxy on city councils. And the one thing that has actually happened, said, we have been talking to some of the members of city council. Because in fact they are my next door neighbors. That place is overgrown. It's a monkey ranch. And for 18 months, the body has been found there. And we've been talking about this overgrowth and that place, and nothing is being done. On the same street, State Drive, when we were doing this other road down, when you did it very well, say, forgotten the name of the stop signs there. It took. I don't know what was supposed to do, because there's been a lot of accidents here. And so we're not criticizing. We are contributing because we are there. We are your eyes and ears. But the way it is taken is like we are we're saying city council is not doing a good job. No, because we are the eyes and ears. We are the ones who are staying there, who are bringing things in. And I'd like you to educate your staff to be more receptive rather than be defensive. I've done the overgrowth thing. Staff reduction. That is, this is the question now. How has this affected positively or negatively productivity, service delivery to city council? Because reduction of staff must be concurrent with higher productivity, because you have trained people to be more skilled rather than to be what is so-called learned, not educated, because they seem to miss this word, the meaning of the word education from learning. We've got too many people who are learned, not enough people who are skilled to do the job. I mean, one guy I had to tell in the face that MBA for me seems to mean masters in bugger because the work is not done, but you've got a degree. Have you seen a degree doing work? We need skills now. We need people who must be able to do things with manipulative dexterity. Is what we are required, both mental and manipulative dexterity. That's where the training should be, not in degrees. Too many degree people here anyway. Let me go on at that, on the staff reduction issues. Now there's another issue here on subdivisions. Ratepayers are suffering in these issues of delays in subdivisions, delays in allocating the people are supposed to be paying rates, but the thing is not in his name as yet because it's not been registered. That collaborative arrangement between your survey and deeds needs to be beefed up, please, because at the moment it is not really to the advantage of the ratepayers. Some of the subdivisions that have been made, the owners of the plots, they have no access. So what's the point of me paying rates for a plot that I cannot access? I've got to go through somebody's problem. And the guy says, no, guys, I'm about to build now. Where will I get, how will the other person get to his plot? Please, can you do something about that? The important thing is identification of the problems so that we can collectively address them for the common good. Not to criticize city council, that city council is not doing a good job. No, it's our problem. We must own that. I must be less important, and we must be most important. Grading of the food outlets in town. You've got this it's a lot. You are saying, you are being advised by city council, if you heard the report, that we should not go to places that are below C. What does C to me when I'm hungry? You see, every place that gives food in a city must not be below C. That is all. That's all city council has got to say. It must not be below C. The other thing was, you talked about water as well. I was quite, it made me, water is life. How can you condemn water? The thing is, that monitoring has got to be done. The water in town is no longer as good as it used to be. I know city council has nothing to do with the actual provisioning of water, but the collaboration between city council to ensure that the water is okay is something that needs to be beefed up as well. I would be most grateful. I want to end up with this. This is my last one now. I'll put this away. mistakes are only made by those who work. People who don't do anything are not even able to do mistakes. And therefore, the defensive attitude, sometimes, this is a common thing, it's not city council alone. It's a common thing in our country. When you are trying to help someone, do you realize that this is not going to be helpful? It looks like you are criticizing me. I have a degree with me. I know, I do. There's no one who knows. Education is about realizing that the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. So it stimulates you to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bounds of human thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Patrick Ngwenya. I'm chairperson of Sandla Local Community Committee, LCC. Kwami kufishane chairperson kuncane kakhulu. Ngihlushwa indzaba ye-outsourcing of other services by City Council. Sebenzi bayinikete a private company with a view you reduce my cost. Ukhanze ukuthi le service beyintwa nge-10 people. Seba engage in company the private. Ikasha 30 people. The service delivery is not there. It's not poor, but it's not there. The cost is the inside kithi yes. The rates because it outsource umsebenzi aphinze aqhubeke lama rates ahlale enye yes kwinhlanhla lembi chairperson kulichi na selithanza kuba limbi ngoba sikwekhutile eminyakeni lophelile but kuyaqhubeka but itsina kusisidi i-cost iqhubeka kakhulu uma ngabe ni outsourcile than nangabe lo msebenzi wenziwa ngini nimbhadala kakhulu lo private company in the expense of thina singama taxpayers. Sike siyakhala ke siyami ukuthi asathi ukuthi kutaze kube ngumhlakabani lama rates asekhama kangaka kanje niya outsource nithi ni reduce ama cost kanti le cost iseduru. Thank you.
Bengicela ukuthi inkosi yami nangabe yeva ukuthi akulunga yalikho hamba uthi uyesinathi sitochubeka ngoba sifanani dokhanza asishukela sokufikele so you can go an FT and then you come back with your TU so that singakhanzi sesi hlaselwa ngishukela.
Ngisukume Chairman. I'm your special guest. Chairman, ngidawuqala nje kubonga nami i-presentation, but le presentation ibobuketwa in relation to quality and content. To come and show us graphs about brush cutters and cutting grass and dogs barking and add value to this meeting. This is the mayor's meeting. We meet you once a year only. Give us more time to quality issues. Maybe say in Zabay, this place is deemed small. This is why some of us have no invitations. This is a public meeting, public notice. There's no need for an invitation. If we don't have space outside, we can be outside. It's not the first time we would be getting out of space, and you lower the number of staff that attend. There's more of them than us. Singayithola indzawo eScott, singayithola indzawo ka-MDS thina la sihlangana khona ema-ratepayers kude la kunganandzawo khona nale Prince of Wales. So this must not be the old trick in the book, COVID noma angasekho. Kukhona la kukhulumile Thakhe Chairman mayelana nale kubita lo mhlangano. asilo liqiniso ukuthi ama policies eCouncil angabese angetulo engamela umthetho weParliament noma ningahiyengeka kanganani ukuthi uma senina town clerk ni council seniyawushaya umthetho. You cannot supersede legislation yeParliament. So siyasho ngalo mhlangano lo 30 days uqala kubalwa sekuapprovela ama accounts. Ngithi nje ngoba phela sitapho kuyengana kanti sitawuhamba lapho uhamba neluhlata. ufuna ukubuta noma uku-object futhi ubhale within 30 days. Ngikwendile Chairman September 2019 kwalapha erenkini nale Checkers. Ba acknowledge almost a year later nakona kusa acknowledge town clerk acknowledge umlangeni Dlamini Bongani. Almost a year later. Manje lapha erenkini Chairman. Banikete lo munye embusha. Busha ufake busha le eCape Town manje kunyonya. La kithi ke utawendani ke ngoba lapha twadlala inziwe. Kutawendeka. Lapha ke eCheckers kupake kutawakhiwa i-private company nani. Where does this council have the capacity to engage a private sector entity at par in terms of business acumen and intellect? Ngithatha le skills business noma tawukangala tukweni nje kusale timbasha nako ke lapha bese siqabana khona Chairman angibekise ke njoba ngisho ngithi kwathiwa unafuna ku-objecta ya objecta not once not a reply. So how did that project proceed? How did it proceed? Lapha eCheckers kwakhiwe ama-flat nangalandas IMA properties, a private sector Swazi. So tawu compete na masipala asebenzisa imali ema-rate payers naye yena lo Dlamini. So tigwaza ngesakho. What business acumen is there in council? Sometimes we wouldn't teach a dog to eat eggs. Chairman, ngigcina ngendzaba ke la lesita khuluma indzaba lapha Featherstone Street.
Madam Mhlonisha uphokugcina.
Ulungile mina
Phinza fakele kunye.
angilahli ngiyagcina.
Sengiyacela ukuthi salo sistoni kalabani.
Chairman. Ngigcina ngendzaba yalo kuthiwa yini lokuthi nyalo lapha beku residential nyalo sekusemi businessini rezoning. Kunebantu laba rezonelwe bangati. Kunebantu laba rezonelwe bangati. Lapha nje nawu lapha United Nations lama office lamasha. Ngana sesilanga endasi. Banengabi. Angathi ke lokuthi lokho sikuthatha. Kufana naku kufaka uhulumende umcharge ehulumende commercial rates. Where does government come into commerce? Because government has no business to be in business. But because government ukona lo meli ministry abaye evaluation court. Kushinjwe ma rates, government is now paying all sorts of things. Semi-commercial, semi-industrial, vacant, upatala almost over twice lo patalwa ngithi. Hulumende. Patala land tax tsine, spinze siyopatala ku central government, double taxation. Because of the city council, abona ukuthi hulumende is naive and maybe foolish. And then we end up paying double taxation. Because the ministry is not doing its job. So angathi Chairman ukuthi lokhu ke sikhuluma nabo bani ngoba phela nani nyalo senmatasatasa biwelkhethwe nya asingabe solo stiphinza siyelkhethwe nya. We need to know, we need to get this engagement not through the office of the CEO lo funa kuhlala tukwelibibi sifuna kushaya umoya sonke isikhathi kushaya umoya njoba sisho nje lokuthi normalizana Chairman ni normalize le relationship nyalo sesitawubusiswa ngini sibusiswe imanagement seyifikile irate payers nakuzana so siyanika imanagement kube ngikhathi batawubuka ukuthi sithini. Because the first thing they want to do is they do not want to be held to account. But I thank you for the time, Chairman. I will now.
Ukuthi sekusikhathi ukuthi leti mkhonyo siphendule.
Asivusele bonke laba ngekhathi endlini ngetigabadabo. Mina ngiphesi ngokabi.
Manje bengithite abekhuluma Chairman sengibona unika lo munye umphopho. abekhuluma Chairman acela ukuthi asalo sibuya nganeno bantu abathu ngoba kunalomunye umsebenzi ofanele ulandzele le annual report isikhulume ngayo ngoba sesibaningi lesesolo sibanika I think nakungende abegcina fundeni so that sitongena kulokunye fundeni chairperson LCC
Ngibonga sesihlalweni. Ngipesi ngokarocha sibongo mina. Chairperson wala ifundeni LCC. Sibonga lokuthola lethuba leli. Siphinde sibonge ne-report yakho CO losucetha kusitholela yona. Kwanje tabakufisha la. Nginesikhalo la. Asikameleleki kahle la. Single LCC. Ikakhulu kunetindzawo la letingekho la. Lesitibutako lokuthi bona basitakala kanjani. Kufake kathi nje kulaba la bomsunduza naletinye tindzawo. Asathi noma ngile police lena le LCC police indlena lesehlukanisa ngoba sekuba nako nokungevani lokuthi ungazi ukuthi thina sibamasipala. Kunalaba ngasibo bakamasipala. So akusiphathi kahle lokho. Bese ngibuya sibonge ngivile uthinza nendzaba yanathi indzawo tethu efake ekhathi fundeni letsaqhubeka ngoyibhisa lungiselelo lokusikwa. Sinesicelo la. Ngiyethemba ukuthi bakhona nalabo baka housing. Njalo kusebonakele lokuthi seniyakwenda lokusika niyatfaka letikhongwane. Siyacela lesive. Sicela ukuthi phela semane nisivumela lokuthi asakhe ngoba senisifakele letikhongwane letindzawo. Ngoba lenzaba yalosimende njengasabekile lapha ababeBennett vele uyasilimata thina. Thina nje fundeni sesimebo 33 years. Kwaqala lekithi mangikhumbula kahle lokumiswa lokwakha. Lesaka like vele liyachubeka lokuthi siyacela lokuthi sisale sibukelwa. Bese sekuba kunale ndzaba yale kunaleti khwama letifuna ngabe tiyasita le. Asikhoni sine le endzaba emthetho efana nalena. Yenza ukuthi siyite lo mhlaba. Labantwana bakhona lokusebenta. Kude lokukhona ukuthi kwendeke. Siyacela lokuthi housing akamana sibukele lokuthi letindzawo akasinike phela le. Sikhona lokuthi sisebente. Lesive sikhona nathi ukuthi siphilise njengetindzawo letinye. Sibuye endzabeni uke wathinza indzaba yemadladla lapha CO ukuthi kufanele ukuthi kube nelusito labo labangakhona sibaside. Ngiva buhlungu thina lefundeni. Ngabe sesinalo nathi idladla endzaweni yasesigcumeni. Inkundla yasitholela sponsor. Sokuthi sakhele idladla nathi le esigcumeni. Mangikhumbula bo 2015 nyalo 2022. Solo kude. City Council usisenda ehla. Ubeka tincwabekelana lesingathathi. Sambhalela City Council sicela lendzawo leya. Wasisita wabhalela housing. Wavuma ukuthi lendzawo leya seyingakhiwa kube nekhishi. Kepha isitese kungilamuhla solo leli kude alakhiwa. Nyalo idona sezidecide ukuthi yini singathathi sale bathatha leli khishi siyofuna indzawo letikhulwini sale lakhiwa khona. Ngani masipala solo kunetincabakelwane letikhona mayelana naleli khishi lela ukuthi lakhiwe. Lesitibuta kona ukuthi beyivunyelani lendzawo leya ukuthi kube likhishi. Nangabe nalamhla solo kude alakhiwa. Ngoba phela sathi ukuthi nangabe kunetinkinga letikhona masipala kufuna sabambisana nedona. Kulungiswe leto tinkinga lesive sikhona sisitakale lapho. Bese ngibuya endzabeni uthi senathi tetempilo. Lokuthi naku niyahambela letitolo siyabonga niyahambela niyabuka ukuthi sidla kahle yini. Mina ngifuna ukungena endzabeni atakhiwo letikhona letidla edolobheni. Ukuthi basekhona yini labo inspector. Ngawubekisa ngasinye sakhiwo. Kuna nasakhiwo nasi silapha la sithatha khona certificate. lesilanga sedlanibeka yathi lihlazo leli kusedolobheni lapha mongaya kude ngisho umthoyi kungcolile emafasitelo afile lebanye ngisho ivalo kude emahenglis ngiyabuza lokuthi masipala ubuka diphi takhiwo ngabe ubuka lamaplot alabantu la gcwele tihlahla kuphela le takhiwo tahulumende dona uyadinaka yini baphephile endabantu ngoba kuyanetsa ngisho nokunetsa lapha kepha sithi kunebantu lababuke kuhloba kwelidolobha bese ngibuya endzabeni yanati de masimetro sine sisive sasefanteni kuyasidulela kusuka lefanteni sambe songcwaba le kumahwalala sibe sinayo indzawo etsine lefanteni la singakhona ukuthi kumbe nakhona ngcwatshwe khona ngoma lesinye isikhathi ukhanze sibe sekuhlupheka thina sibozone leader lo muntu akakhoni lokusuka le acashele imoto thambe teyobeka labantu le lapho bangcwaba khona solo kufana na chair zone leader SCC solo kunye mangicabanga angiboni khona lo mehluko bese siyacela ikakhulu siyesibone kule migwaco leni basijubela lo tshani sicela manje kusetshenziswe le youth leya lemiphakathini yethu letawusita lokusijube lo tshani ngoba minyaka yonke sibona busobunye bujuba la etindzaweni tethu sicela manje nisite le youth lesinayo kube ngiyo seninike umsebenzi ukuthi nayo asinikwe lo msebenzi kube ngiyo lenda lo msebenzi loyo kunyenti kona kepha ngalothi isikhathi sincane ndakucela kuma lapho
Bengicela ukuthi siphendule if nangiba khona singaphendula because isikhathi sesilimele etinye tato tingama comment efuna ukuthi siwabuke siwaphelele phasi efuna impendulo ngeke sibese singeke sibuyele emuva sitawuphendula nje lokhu la ngisho nesitobe sesingena kulolu lunye luhlelo because isikhathi asikho ngakithi nabahlonishwa bafuna ukuthi baphendule because ithinta ufuna ukuthi iphendule sokwazi ukuthi siqhubeke letinye kwanza ukuthi ufuna ukuthi sibuyele emuva siyobuka ukuthi kwente kanjani letinye ingayiphendula letinye ma comment ngicala phasi ngenyuke uma ngikhumbula indzaba yamathuna ahlupa ngoba lo mhlaba ufuna ukuthi kwadeke kuhlupha nabe lo mhlaba sowuphelile umhlaba ufuna ukuthi kwadeke ukuthi nako masipala uhulumeni alesuku nje athi na indzawo yogwaba so indaba yogwaba ukhanza ukuthi singendije ukhanza ukuthi indaba yogwaba ifuna sicele nje abekisa LCC chairperson wasefamdeni ukuthi uyabadulela lesimo sesembabane uma sekhe indawo ngiqhaqhiwe sengibekise nje kumahhala besifaka kumahhala sesidwashini siye ngale fundeni but kuya kuthi ngale ndzawo ngoba indzawo yasembabane ilethe indzawo letingakanani ngiyabona ukuthi nginkulumo yasefanele lezwayini kunesho lengivile yemntwana bamgcoka lokuthi ifuna LCC vele sixole siyikhulume lenzaba sithathe ikansela wakhona ngabe kulungile kuqondwe kumele athi kukhulunywe letindzaba ukuthi kunana issue naye so that labantu batositakala but nje indzaba yasefandeni warekhe say ukuthi siyayathi setafuleni akusindzaba lesha ifuna ukuthi sisebenze sikhulume size sifike emaphezeni nayo ukuthi ihamba kanjani akusiyo indzaba lesicala namuhla kepha ke nawusebuhlungweni vele bese uqhubeka ubeka ukuthi ngesilonze akhala ngaphathe kahle khona lenzaba yakhona sitayikhuluma siyibuke lokuthi sigcina siyifixa up ngoba lo seyivela la iyangikhombisa ukuthi solo ikhona ingalungi kahle khona sithemba ukuthi sitayikhulumisana ngoba akusikhulume letindzaba singadibeki nje Kunendzaba lekhulume ngekuthi khulunywa isandla. Lapho sandla sithi hey nibalanzelani labantu ngaphandle ngoba kubuka ngathi lo msebenzi ungabusasentshetho. Yithi sibafakelani abantu labangala inkampani esitlanzelana. Ngicabanga ukuthi nayo kutafuna sikhuluma bangekwati kwethu kunengilokhu seveka kuma silanzeleni inkampani. Nangabe ke leti inkampani esetihlala phansi tingento lo msebenzi. Kufuna ukuthi kulandzele ukuthi abawendi ngani. Ngoba kuthi yena uqashe abantu labanganani. Imali esuke esimnike yona suke sathene ukuthi sisavile kule nto le. But nangabe lokhu deliver le kulabantu etindzaweni akuhambi kahle yini lefuna siyihlole leyo. Uma ungabuka ukuthi uma u-outsource kwente kanjani lama cost akho vele ayehla nangabe u-outsourcile ukhanza ukuthi bo personal cost awusabhadali dinenge letinto lo save ke uma u-outsourcile but nangabe sekutasinika inkinga zokudeliver ngabe kusendeka kahle we have to make a follow up ukusebenzana labantu nabe sebalethu kweqeda akusasentshetho sitakwenda lokuthi kulandzele ngithi nje kuyiphendula yona lokuthi ime ngalethi indlela lethi kunendzaba lokhanza siletinye tato ngabe bed ukhanza ukuthi nakathinza indzaba tikhona lapho tifuna ukuthi uticaphela utikhuluma ufune ukuthi iphendula ngendlela yakhona because dinenge letindzaba latifakile kodwa sitibhalile lapha sitawuthola ithuba lokuthi sitiphendule ikhanseli kakusho ukuthi nasesiphuma thina sekuthi ikhanseli yawuhlala ikhona bawuhlale bakhona labasebenza kuphuma vele kapolitiki kwindlela yakhona 5 years wakho ngaphuma phela uyaphuma nalabanye nje kuyaphela kulomnyawutanga so kwindlela yokuphuma ngoba ngene uyangena bese ngathi ufuna udelive kube khona lo takwathi usinoma sowuphumile akusho sina sesiphume office nasibantu bembabane sibembabane sitabe solo nje letindzaba sitikhuluma sitilungisa ukuthi sitenda kanjani kepha sitatilandzela ngalendlela yakhona lokuthi kuhamba njani tiyaqonza yini tiyalunga ngicela ukuthi kansela amagagula nangabe ngakhona lo ngakusho ngoba babuthi athi nesonga babuthi isitulo
Asibonge your worship. The mayor, I think ngingaba comment yinye mhlambe lengathi ngayikhwabula kancane kodwa lokunye ngisacela nje ukukhuluma from my observations over the 5 years ngilo council. Lokuhambelana nabo besitele namuhla. Lokuhambelana comments that come from the floor. Ngitawucela kube nesikhulumi ngawucala ngalokuphendula leyo. Yenza ba outsourcing ngicala leyo bese ngiyabuya le advice yami outsourcing to communities. That's very, very important, which in actual fact I think the program yabo AUD nayo ithinza khona to empower lawo communities aphinze asho lesinye isikhulumi isikhalilo sawo ngani khulunywa ngema-youth ikhuluma ngema-youth lalabadzala kuphi kunalamanye ama-programs nawo lakhona la directed to each and every age group lekhona kuma-communities ala kumasipala ndawubuya la ukuthi ngisho ngani leya kule ngicela kuyivala ngokuthi le ama-outsourcing to communities is a program that the council is running and vele itawuvuthwa kancane kancane. It was being in a pilot mode kuhamba kulawo ma-individual communities ma-ward bona so kuyasebenteka but lana sekunetinkinga mhlawumbe leti imali ngathi sispenda kakhulu noma sispenda kancane noma i-participation ema-community members ihlupha kuphi konke lokho kunema-teething problems which by the time silungisekile it will be rolled out to all the communities. Makuya le advice and my observations ngomthize ukuthi there are lots of programs which we all I can guarantee you that 60 to 70% of the attendees will not know how much impact these programs have in your lives up until it touches you individually. As a property owner, or somebody has just passed away and you need the services of council. That's the only time that you will find a need to come close and say, council, how do you assist a ratepayer in this instance? What is my point? My point is, we have these ward meetings, what is of very paramount importance is the fact that you have to attend these meetings, you have to participate in order to know what the municipality has to offer, so that you will only then come back and say, no, 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 no. But then you're charging me too much there. You're not charging me well there. You're charging me because you do not know what is your right. Significantly, that's what it means. So, what I would like to advise is the attendance in these work meetings, because it is important in disseminating the information. People do not attend these meetings. As councillors, I won't say it's legislative, but we have to. We agreed that we have to at least hold one meeting per quarter. I will ask randomly, any of the attendees that lives in Mbabane, and find out who is your councillor. They would not answer me. They will not answer me. At least my ones are here, they can say that they know me. But to a certain percentage. But that is not my point. My point is that up until it touches you personally, that's when we what I'm happy about, and I'd like to applaud I'll say it's a re-establishment of the Ratepayers Association. That's a very, very, very important tool in driving whatever mandate, whatever concerns that the citizenry of Mbabane will have. Number two would be the cooperation, the MOU, that will be signed very soon between the traditional structures of the city and the council, which is Botingunda, Buto, Politinfuna, RA. It involves all those structures, which then they will have that cooperation within council. Because what is important is the communication. We will talk about accountability, we will talk about transparency, but if there are no structures that are respected and are aligned, obviously there will not be communication, there will not be any accountability. So I would like to applaud. Those two structures will make a difference. All these issues we can come up with individually, they can be consolidated and taken up as a body, as a legislatively and constitutionally configured body, which will represent the people. That's the only way to get things done. I normally say in my meetings, when we have meetings, I normally say, whatever concerns that we have, 90% of the time, we are backing up the wrong tree. It's not council's fault that the Ratings Act hasn't changed, it hasn't been amended for all these years. The council does not do that. It is not council's fault that people out there will be running around and messing things up, and then council will have to foot the bill. It is not council's fault. But if there's a collective and consolidated body, which is constitutionally elected into office, will sit down and bring those concerns, I'm sure the impact will be felt. That is my advice to you. Let's attend these meetings. Let's follow these structures that the council is in order for us to all grow. Let's grow together. We will talk the same issues every year. Like I think one of the speakers did say that we've spoken about this the previous year. We've spoken about this. We haven't had dinner. But those structures, if you have regular meetings with the memorandum of understanding and discuss those issues and say, please, this is our expectation in our next AGM. Can you please put this in place? I doubt that any kind of refusal. They cannot refuse that offer. Like I'm saying, I do not think that they will deny that offer, as long as that is that respectable, proper structure that council can interact with and negotiate, or not negotiate. Because you must understand that the institution is like a company. The shareholders are you, and this is the board. So whatever that needs to happen in any setup, in any institution, it has to come from the shareholders. Now you can't tell me that you'll be complaining, no, you're not listening to me as a shareholder. I'm sure you must have a plan. There must be a way. Let's follow the structures. Let's have those bodies that are fully representative and then attend. Please, I thank you for your time, and that's all I needed to advise on. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pence.
Asibonge bahlonishwa, but nakule ngicela kuyibonga la singakachubeki siyembili. Umlondolozi babedlamini ikhombo layishito lemgcoka wathi silaleleni ningaqabanga ukuthi siyanisola, because kwale ngakhola uma nisilalela ningaqabanga ukuthi siya criticize. Uma sikhuluma as residents of Mbabane sikhuluma into suke sisitanini emasipala ngoba sibambisene kusele dolobha lichubeke kahle. Ngicabanga ukuthi lokho umgcoka ukuthi as from now on funa ukuthi sibalalele labakushoko so that le dolobha litokhona kuchubeka le empini. Uzuthi kwenile kwaze kwatholakala umuntu asashona sanuka is because akubanjiswana. So ngicabanga ukuthi nasingayibamba kanjalo kutabalula kusebenza kwethu sendele lidolobha lichubeke lembili. Sitakubamba ukuthi silalele kusho singathi niyasisola ngoba nisuke nisisita kusele lidolobha lichubeke. Ngicela ukuthi nyalo singene babevila kade si Audited
we are not representing. It suits the council. Ngibekisa ukuthi akekho isikhathi ilungelo le. Mayor ikhansela lenye yebile isekhona la. Manje ukuthi ke i-plan integrity sibheke phike namnjalo kulolo bhekwa council. Ngiphinze ngibuka ke ngenzaba angakhaza meya ngoba lokho ukuthi sawuqhubeka le mawadini thina singanamholi i-LCC ngoba iphethwe ngumasipala unekhansela yethu thina nase sile wadini lama-resolution lesiwathathako abophela bani abinding kubani namhla site nema-minutes la kepha governance bathi number 1 in PwC uyaba-audit abaphasi trustful akekho nalo PwC longashintshwa.
Asibonge babe Bennett, ngiyabona ukuthi endzaba yekhansela lakho iyakuhlupha umuntu akayiphendule ngale ndlela naye. Masipala akusiyo lo wendalo ukhetho. Lukhetho nelitiko kwala lifanele silethe khona sikufunze lo constitution kuyasho ukuthi ngibani lobuke ukhetho. Sina what we have done kusishito kusesite council. Now utawukhanza ukuthi kufuneka imali kude le mali ukuthi kuphindze kuyokhetho. And litiko nalo lasiphendula. Engabe siyatlanzela letindzaba sembabane tiyehluka kancane. Embabane ngeke kwapoint nje ufake kufuna ukuthi kubiyelwe ukhethweni. Tamini imbabane kukuteklisha lo wakhanza ukuthi kufuna kulandzele umthetho uma kwendiwa into tasembabane. So kafishane ngenhlanhla kwanyalo ukuthi awusethiyela ukhethweni. Nabantu utawungena siqolise ukuthi kuhambile kwafika kuleso sigaba leso. Vele masipala akusiye lophethe ukhetho luphethwe ngilabafanele uma basibadethe imali ukhanza ukuthi sekuvele kuyinkinga sengeke sikhone ukuchubeka sendele lo ukhetho andiboni letindzaba lethambisana ukhetho namasipala ukuthi uma sekukhulunyiswana kuhambe kanjani. So ke lesimo sinjalo awu nasingalandzela nje lokho ungabona ukuthi kuchubeke siqolise ukuthi what for sibhlungale lapho umlingane ehamba khona ngoba iCovid yasikhombisa ukuthi iyasemuka yaka what for tindzaba takhona sithi uma sangekho lo council uqondzisa kulo mayor afike lo mayor athi sebenzele tindzaba talelo wathi nangabe akasekho so ikanjalo yakhona kodwa nje ngijabulisa kusethiyela ukhethweni kube betinga ukhethweni titawuqhubeka tite kulo mayor ahendi nje indzaba yaka what for njengalapho futhi naletulu umlingani lo washona ikanjalo nilebe kunene umuntu akasalo angena kunayi tibhlungu tu cha leli ketamo njengoba nje umuntu omdzala ubhalile ngayo saphendula and unele kubhala sola sikayi kwanendlela esisebenta ngayo utayibona seyisebenteke ekugcineni ukuthi wo naku lokwendekile manje iyahlupha indzaba lenye yazi yafaka indzaba yemuntu kona lemithetho ufuna siyilandzele siyikhulume ngayo kusikhuluma kanje ke lena ngoba semuntu sikhulume ngayo kuze iphumelele yona le ketamo mana ngilwathi ke ketamo silwashonapi kodwa nje uye bese phela abantu bayatsandza ngiyitela ngiyabona sikhulunywa ibindzaba le yaphuma emaphepheni yakhanya sikwenda njani asikahlali phansi siyayisebenta sisengakaphume officeini and kunendlela letawuphenduleka ngayo ekugcineni ukuthi nayi le ndzaba la ikhona khona bekunene kuze sikwendele ukuthi sikhone kusebenta sichubeke iyabonakala yona ibhlungu yithi nakithi akusimnanzi bese ngicela kwendlulisa mlondolozi asibonge mlondolozi yabona isikhathi siyahlupha ngiyafisa ungasingabe sesiyendele MOU na ne Repair Association so that is the tinto letinye totlungisa ngale ukuthi how are we going to work forward but lengakucela ukuthi sithe sikhansel lo mhlangano lona awugcini njoba sitaya seMartin nangabe nyaka tayethula kukhanze ukuthi sikuthole namhle kuseni kutasita ukuthi phinde sifake sikhulumise nikufake kusicalana asikakuva akusho ukuthi uma sikhuluma letindzaba la siphelile nje cha ndaphinze nifake ukuthi okay simvile ukukhulumile now sesikubukile nathi letinto lekufanele ukuthi sitibona ngathi atihambi kahle kungako nje ukuthi ngiyethemba ukuthi Repair Association asinase sikhuluma phinde ibuke le report le isho ukuthi njengale report le lapha kuthiwa zange kuhamba ngalendlela yakhona kusiko sikwathi ukuthi sikhulume la but now the annual report ngekime bekunene iyachubeka ukuthi ayikhulume nasenasithola isikhathi ukuthi nihlabe la ningayihlaba khona akusho ukuthi uyagcina lo mhlangano ngicela nje ukuthi sibe naloko awugcini lo mhlangano utabe solichubeka ni commenta ukuthi asidena kuleyo lapha nisinike amafika akuhambisani naloko akusho ukuthi nase sikhulumise la is final entana cha abantu abakethu cha kumbe kusho siqhubeke sihloniphane lengitama ukuvetelana ukuthi le document akusho sinase ikhulunywe la sengeke phindze kukhulunywe ngayo ngize ngiyasho ngisi Red Pay Association sisethatha phasi nayo masinyane itabe so likhulumeka le document akusho ukuthi phela le document engcenye bakhona nje labafuna kuyivala document ithini but asina basekhaya ekuhlupha ukuthi ngiphinze bengomfundisi kulesi sigaba because umuntu makafundza alivesi uthi ungalifunza uthi angalifunza uliveni la sonveni but usinathi ufike ekhaya ubhale phasi bese uthi abekhuluma kona into lokukhulunywa ngale Bible so uhlele ekhaya ulinambitha lelivesi naloko ke siyaqela ukuthi noma ngabe ngicela singanti lokho mina akakhuluma lo bese uyakhuluma ngoba kule ingakhethi ihleli asikalwi nayo ikhethile nyalo which is good sesiyawuhlala nayo phasi sikhulumisane ukuthi okay iway forward yokusebenza letinto ngunaye yabona so ke ngiyacela ukuthi lolo lapha salo achubeka ayethula le annual report nabe khona lo ngakevakali ngoba vele kutebe ngakevali nakuthiwe namhle ekseni kuthi awuchubeka ukukhulunyiswana ngawo cha ngathi kuyinhlahla ke lokho akukavuthwa akusiko njengoba sithe bayeBennett mina ngiyiphethe lengiyo naye le ngiyiphethe lengiyo so ke kumcoka lokuthi manje ngimana singabelele ngiyo la ithole weBennett ithethe kuphi kubani but ngiyo sishiye khona lapho ngiyo ngicela Vilakade ya ngicela Vilakade babe usethulele annual report lenye tindzaba start khuluma kulo mhlangano manini ke manje manini kulo mhlangano lo kungumhlangano weCouncil le naku lesengichubeka ngayo I've gone places nami la tinto tekwenda lama annual reports senda kanjani asisube sesenda naku lesikwendako uma singahloniphani asihloniphaneni uthi nyalo utasethwela le report yabona akufuneki bese senda ngathi ngoba mina kangifuni bese ngithi hey cha singene njani asibe nje abantu abathobekile sikhombise ukuthi sifuna kusebenzela imbabane ngiyakugcizelela ngithi itawufika ku Red Pay Association manje ngibone iRed Pay Association sebhamsadanda wo singeke sende kanjalo please ngiyanicela and I respect you kukhona lokunye ubona ibody language if ngenda le body language mina la ngangiyawona lo mhlangano as much ngifuna ukuthi nginihloniphe asihloniphaneni because that's what we need ukuze sikhone ukuachieve ama goals ukuthi silungise imbabane singende lokuthi bese sikhomba ukuthi cha kusenjetwa kanjalo please asibeketelelane siyayisebenta lento iconze nje ibe kahle ngoba kusho ukuthi solo kunamaphutha but egcineni finally kutase kuyaqonza lento lapho sitabe silele etafuleni nani so ke ngiyacela mina lokuthi the chair nawe uyaqela uthi akethule le report nangabe ayikuvele ucangiva utathola ukuthi angifa letha lithuba lakho lapho yase sofuya because yade ngangisho lapha ukuthi angifa ngunayi nanayi ukuthi inhlada le hlaba khona lo thuba lelo so in due respect ngiyacela ukuthi asingeke simise lo mhlangano ukuthi engcenye ema-councillors asingeke kwenteke lokho cha singeke umise kanjalo umhlangano lo mhlangano wekuthula annual report utawendeka yethule le annual report nyalo ngiyacela ukuthi lo nganga CEO akasethulele Vilakade annual report uqinisile babeBennett lokho kufuna ukuthi sihlangane neRed Pay Association losawuhlana masinyane sithi khuluma leti ndzaba nakuvuma lelo lithuba lelo libe seliyendeka but ufuna qale sihlangane neRed Pay Association sikhuluma leti ndzaba so okay singakwenda kanjani ke ukuthi sibuye kule mihlangano siyende endzaweni levulekile but nyalo singakuvimbi lokho
solo siyatshelwa sibazala. Sicela nje kunye Chairman kwekuthi lihlelele kwekuthi nawutawukanza lo ungakuva itawuba khona lithuba. Kepha sibuye kulonganga umhlangano. Lotaba ne-resolution nelusizo lunje simbone nemuntu omdala alugabile lusetshanga abuye amakhansela ngabuke emathubeni. Kube nje hayi le makhampasini abatabeletiwe nje mandlaki sakumathilotana.
Cha babe Benetle. Bengikuthandzako yakholeshoko ayeve ma-councillors ukuthi nicelani. Lokusho njengoba eva ukuthi nicelani. Kufuna sibuyele emuva siyobuka silungisa ibudget ukuthi sibuye siyokhuluma ini letindzaba.
Ngiyakubonga lokho Chairman. Kufanele uhamba kwekhansela bayele Mbabane nabesemtshela mhlawumbe ukuthi ukhuluma njengoba khulumile kulonyaka ophelile. Kubuke i-constitution ye-AGM senda kubeke amawadi. Wakhuluma kanje akhuluma nalesizwe sona lesebenzi. Bekhona. Sangaphathiswa nguwe. Manje kona kanye phela kona. Ike waphelile.
Cha siyakuva babe Benetle sitakubuka lokho sikulandzele sikwende ukuthi kube sendleleni leconzile. Babe Flakati. Cha sengifika vela at this point in time no more attending any hands. Ngicela babe athule i-report annual report. No. Now we are talking about SAT. Please sit down. Please sit down, babe. Please sit down. Mr. Flakati, can you go on, please? Please, Babe, can you sit down? Please, can you sit down? I'm not running away. We will meet with you and discuss the MOU and we'll find a way forward. Sure. Babe Flakati. Chairman, please. I'm the chairman ulomhlangano ngiyakucela babe. Ngicela uhlale phansi. Sizakhuluma letindaba ku-MOU singabe ngiyacela. Udaba ngakho mqhubeka kamsuzwana Mhloniphi. Solo akujiki kulesicelo lebesolo sishiwo ngibobonke eningitami bekusiphendula. Manje bekuhle singuhloniphe babe vele usibeka na usicizele njengachairperson. So ke siyakuva ekushoko akusho ukuthi umsolo wekansi sogcinile sophelele nje. So besingacela ukuthi akusho ukuthi nakayethula senda iphendule cha ila senda seniyalithola lithuba lokuyiphendula. Ningathi sitophendula ngoba sikavele ngiqinisile lokuthi angayifunzi but akayethule. Udakhanda ukuthi kule ndlela ebesiyendile ukuthi ingene nalapha bakhona labathola lithuba lokuthi bayibuke. Udakhanda sibathu akho ngelabathu akubuda. So lena kule nibeka kweyevakala. Sicela ukuthi babevila kade usethulele le annual report.
Sikhulumisa i-audit report my auditors council external auditors after they examined the books and records, income statement, council, statement of financial position, balance sheet in the old language, a statement of changes in equity, and a statement of cash flows. This is what is called the financial statements, and see minus window mehluko between this and the management accounting reporting. There are two different things. So my auditors a council as nigete council rather an unqualified audit opinion to say there are no material misstatements labawona goglama financial statements. They could have issued other opinions where lenye qualified opinion, lenye adverse opinion, and a disclaimer of opinion. But in this instance, they've issued an unqualified one to say there are no material misstatements, glamour financial statements, the council's financial statements being what I've already spoken to. So the revenues a council a meganje 153 million point 2 and the expenditures 144.4 and a surplus here 8.8. The surplus is the excess of revenue over expenditures, and that's it. That's what we call a surplus. Profit in the business or corporate language, but this is a surplus in our case. Then this is a breakdown of the revenues. There's private rates, there's government rates, and then there's penalties on and interest. You can see the variations la penalties and interest, which I would like to speak to, is 100% because in 2021 azange charge my penalties and interest on outstanding rates because begunale issue of COVID. So ministry yatsike let us sibonakale sibambisana nema rate pairs. Then there's other income, lengu 10 million from all these sources of revenue, council advertising, up to the refuse collection and waste collection. The commentary now to the revenues. Rates went up 2.3%, mainly as a result of Naya, Emma penalties less school menga ongale, good say abe kona, abang 100%, they were not there in the previous financial year. And other incomes have gone up, mainly because government relaxation COVID regulations and kwasekala ke kusebenzisa ama facilities a council because mostly other income user fees from using the council facilities, and council further dispose of some old assets le bewasebenzisa yathola leya mali ke lesiyitholile. The operating expenditures now, starting revenue, Sigma operating expenses. The operating expenditures, Nanga, 143, and then the breakdown, go Shona, and us. There is commentary, or rather, before we get to the commentary, here is the breakdown. Yeah, all of my expenditures. Gutsa Benjani 41.5 is for staff and salaries, and 6.1 wages, performance, and total costs that 49 million. The commentary to the operating expenses is audit fees. Audit fees ngale aqhamuka from it's based on the provision in my previous financial years charges, because at the time Sendale audit, we would not have gotten into a situation where we know the actual figures of the audits, because aqhamuka at different stages. Depreciation, there's a slight increase, there are additions, of course, and then councillors' remuneration, there's a slight increase due to that. Kubenale relaxation lesiyibone ngale nasikhulumisa revenue when councillors had the number of meetings are required to operate due to relaxation of the COVID regulations. And then road rehabilitation and maintenance due to attending to failed gravel seal roads and potholes. So we have incurred those expenditures in relation to that. Outsourced services due to outsourcing of the landfill services, utilities, our electricities, water, and stuff are kulile, and the telephones due to virtual meetings that we have had to hold nakunalesimo se COVID. And then the salaries and wages now are kulile 3.6% cost of living adjustment awarded to employees. That is for the statement of comprehensive income. Maybe before the statement of comprehensive income, kwaba ne comment lebeyikhuluma ngema other operating expenditures, which if sibuka lapho kule report le current sitayibona ukuthi that has been broken down, has since been broken down this financial year, and then send a comparison from the previous financial year. The statement of financial position, balance sheet in the old language, that's the situation. Assets have gone up to 757 million, 0.9 from 746. With all lumber categories, property, plant, and equipment down the line. And then the financing side of the equation, what we just seen was the assets, and then the financing side of the equation, that is the retained surplus here, council, after us added that 8.8 million into the 88 from the previous financial year, reserves going down to employee liabilities and benefits. Next. The commentary then to the financial statement of position, statement of financial position rather, roads, property, plant, and equipment, a slight increase due to 14 million additions offset by current year depreciation and disposal. Let's get ngayo before. And then trade and other receivables have gone up from 59 to 67.6. People and government are struggling to pay MR rates. The majority of our trade and other receivables is from rates. And then commentary to, so let's go back on a commentary, cash and cash equivalents, 2.9 million increase in Gulele Sigbonile, which you will see, mainly due to inflows from operating activities. Financial assets at fair value, this is imali le council le bege with African Alliance 1.2 million, and from interest movement of 8.8 in retained surplus. We've spoken to that. Borrowings increased to acquire equipment yakusebenta. Trust funds 1.9 received in respect of UDP sales. Plot sales, that is the plot sales are like my informal settlements, like council is trying to upgrade corner. Trade and other payables mainly decrease. Outstanding supplies bigger at the end of the financial year, so there's a decrease from what was last financial year. The third bit of the financial statements, this is Ngenaguyo, is the statement of the statement of cash flows. Statement of cash flows, it's not three parts. It's cash flow from operating activities, your normal business activities every day. It's part lekhuluma my investing activities, your acquisition of assets, your disposal of assets, all issues related to that activity abelapa. Then bese sekuba ne part lekhuluma ngekuthi these acquisitions lalangetulo are financed from what? That's the cash flows from financing activities. So from operating activities, 12.6 million. Here's an outflow, 13 million, and then here is net receipts from financing activity, 4.6 million, and then Sikwena gets narrated 25 million. There's naye, and I trust there will be a significant reduction in the coming financial statements for the following year after say 70 most of it. Next, the ratio analysis, comments on it. Spelling a current ratio. Current ratio is your current assets divided by current liabilities. How much you are. That's how much liquid you can be. And we are saying in 2022, for every, and this is how you read it, for every one langen that council owed at 31st March, begana 8.3, lebeganga mpatala ngai. So, ivagala gahlege, but the recommended ratio is 2.1. But you are relatively safe if you are this high. Debt to asset ratio, that is how council has or the ability a council to acquire external borrowing. So council is geared up to 2.2%, 1.9 from the previous financial year, meaning council in a 97.8 capacity to borrow if they ngakona kulo kanjana kuyoboleka kulo 2 point, looking at that ratio. The next one, staff costs to total expenditures, 34.5%, down from 35.5 the previous financial year, relatively at an acceptable level. Capital expenditure to property, plant, and or to acquisition of fixed assets, we moved from 4.1 to 9.5, meaning imali sebendile, imali cash lo sebendile to acquire emalo kanjana ema fixed assets, ikuphuke to 9.5. The stability le sebendisile council. Now, sin presentela ke ukuthi simo sema rates sime kanjani at the end of each financial year from 2020. Total 72.3 2020, 70.7 2021, 85.5. So there's a significant increase between 2021 and 2022. A significant increase in the number of kubantu labangakhona kubhadala. Government website is struggling, is 47.7, and then begangu private rates 37.8 to get to that 85.5. So ngamunye lapho is a struggling, council is struggling to collect rates. We're presenting payment options. Really, la corner, you can use electronic funds transfers, you can use a stop order speed point. Walk-in customers not encouraged, and nakusenale ma issues about COVID, COVID and mobile money as well. We are surrender to pay your rates. Ngibile me sesinga thole ma questions si respond na bese yakona respond at all. Because
asibonge questions or it is. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Paul Taylor, a ratepayer. I'd just like to reinforce what my colleagues have said here on timing. I don't believe that there's any excuse for not having distributed this information earlier. I received the letter hand-delivered on Friday. Surely, with technology as it is today, we have emails. This could have been distributed on email easily, and it would also it comes out as a PDF file, and we wouldn't have to print all these annual reports. There's just something has come up to me that I think needs clarification here. We keep talking about an AGM. This is, to me, something different from a usual company AGM where the shareholders have to vote. I mean, here my understanding is we're here for information because our councillors are the ones who should be, they're the intermediary between what you would call your board of directors and the shareholders. Because we're not voting here today. There's no resolutions which are being passed and have to be put before and voted. And I think that's something that some folks here haven't grasped in terms of a formal AGM. Onto the financials, and I think my friend, Mr. Sipa Dlamini, touched on this, and I think even Walter, is if this is information, there's something fundamental missing here that I believe we should be seeing, and that's what's the budget. Because here we're seeing 2021 and 2022, and in nowhere have we seen what the budget was for 2022, because that's in fact what management put to the councillors, and the councillors should approve. I'm assuming this, that the budget, there's a budget process. Now, we haven't seen any budget here, and I think we should turn to page 85 in the report, where it's expenses, because in fact the rates are flat. But as you've seen from Mr. Velakati's presentation, the surpluses dropped substantially. And I mean, that comes from either two places, either the rates or the expenses. Now, if you look at that page, you'll see there the expenses have gone right from 70 to 79 million. And if you take the category from management of outsourced service providers and go down there, some of these expenses have gone up by 40%. And I mean, I think that deserves further explanation. You go further down, and I mean, I don't really know what that means, management of outsourced service providers. Then you go to the next one that's 100% increase, corporate strategy implementation. That's doubled. So then you go to the next one, environmental management community, up 93%. Now these are the things, if the budget, what was the budget for these expenses? And us as ratepayers, when we have a look and we say, well, where's the surplus? If the surplus is dropped by half, so it's got to come from two places. Either you cut expenses or you put the rates up. And that's, I think, a concern. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Ngicela kubuta angisamboni babe Vlakade. Mane kusiyame ufunze wentele ama highlights sekwenyuke nabo shukela lakithi asaboni kahle emehlweni. Kukhona investment lathi yentiwe ka African Alliance yenta I profit or I interest ya 1.2 million. Angathi mangifeka kahle yini, but bengicela ukubuta ukuthi mhlambe ngiphi le account, is a call account noma I fixed deposit, ukuthi the interest yakhona nize niye khona kangaka nishiye emabhange yini, ngoba ukhona na Central Bank unabo 7.25% I interest yakhona ku call account. Mfuna lokuva nje chairperson ukuthi kuhamba njani, kuyasebentela yini vele. I thank you.
Okay, as a colleague front, investment of African Alliance is a senior cut the investment is scenario, and there's a purpose why we okay. See, that investment is more than equal account. The African Alliance is not into money market, but Iguma investments. So there will be portfolio funds, there will be Langeni, there will be Bolgabesha. Those the ena imali le ngetulwana. Kune call account. We are not maybe it's a natural as it's not invested kuma portfolio funds where kunema shares nema bonds nabo yini where there's a lot of fluctuations. It's invested. I'm not very sure now, but it's between Langeni and Liktebesha. So those are Swazi investments. So as I can publish now, and then Paul Taylor wants an analysis, which maybe I don't have now, that there is a decrease in the surplus between the two financial years. Our income increased by 3.3. Slide number. Slide number 4, where we show that total income. So this slide shows that our total revenues increased by 3.3%, and our total costs are up by 9.1%. So even though there is an increase in the revenues, there is also an increase in the level of expenditures that we get. That explains what you were saying, but there would be a further analysis. Therefore, if you go to that page, page 85 of the annual report, is an increase from 70 to 79 of those other expenses that we have detailed. To say what is other expenses. That was the issue in the previous financial year, and we have given a breakdown of that one. Okay, let us be clear. Let us be clear. We are presenting financial statements, not management accounts. Yes. Yes, that's. Yes. All right, thank you very much. Yes, you are very right, and I did not bring the budget with me. This is what I brought. The budget is discussed with the council every month. No.
public notice that the budget estimates are lying in council for inspection. We walked today until I was told by the CEO that he doesn't know me as a rate payer until I show him on my cell phone that I'm referred to as a valued rate payer. There's a message here between the two of them. One knew, one didn't know, but obviously the CEO is always right. So what he's talking about, questioning the budget, that is what you denied us access when we were in that little long room there, the small room, if you will remember. No protection. We had come there to ask exactly that. This is the budget. Let us see your headline increase for rates and all that. And the city treasurer said, oh, that is now confidential information. You'll have to wait for the town clerk. Amazing people. Amazing people. Amazing people. Have nothing to do with men.
Your Worship, can I contribute to this conversation? Firstly, the comment by Mr. Bennett in terms of what took place in that meeting, that is not true. Yes, it is not true. Yes. Now, we have councillors, you have the residents of Mbabane, we have ratepayers, all in that mix. You elect your councillors to come and represent you. Now, the law says what councillors must do in there. That includes the passing of the budget. Just like in Parliament, we all have elected MPs. They approve the budget. If we want to see what they are approving, yes, you go and buy the book of estimate, the government book of estimate. That is what you'll see in there. Now, in Mbabane, we have budget. We have the budget from which you can track what has been happening. It tells you the actual expenditures in the past, the projected expenditures going forward, etc. It is there. It is reviewed. The performance against that is reviewed by councillors every 3 months. It is reviewed by councillors every 3 months. You have a right to ask your councillor for your budget. If you want to do a budget, check what they are doing. You have that right. It's not a problem. You only have to go and ask them. You know, the budget book, can I see it? They'll give it to you. It is there. So Today's meeting is not about the budget per se. It's about councillors accounting, the mayor accounting to you what overall he has been doing with your resources. And that is what we've been trying to do. The budget is their responsibility. And you can get access to it from them, from the council. The law says we need to put it out for inspection. We do that every year. It is published there. Here are the estimates in terms of the expenditures, and it will see what was the expenditure this year, what was the expenditure last year. It's there. The law prescribed how we should lay it out. So we do provide for all of that. I just thought I'd make a comment on that. There's another matter that I just wanted to comment on. That relates to, yes, what has been raised. The issue of the money that's been invested with African Alliance. As our Director of Finance indicated, it is relatively short term. It is not longer term investment. It's relatively safe investment, and it's such that council should have access to it. Council should have access to it very quickly when they need to have access to that money. The intention by council is it's been accumulating quite a bit of cash. The intention for council has been so that council can implement certain capital projects, because we no longer get capital grants from government. Us and Mansini don't get capital grants from government, so we have to be able to get more or less to finance ourselves. And so we require to have cash readily available to be able to finance council operations. There are big projects that are being planned for this year that council has approved that they be implemented to improve the certain key roads in the city. Part of that money will be used to do exactly that this year. You will see next year's financials when they come through that we may have a smaller amount of money still left over from the project. Thank you, Your Worship.
Asibonge kuyabonakala ukuthi sekubela kulokuthi vele funa balithole lithuba lokufundza bakubone bathi kwathi kukubuta kahle njengoba belicelile njengoba beshito nyalo kufuna ukuthi kwendeke ngaleto tindlela leto bese sikukhulumile sendlula kiko ngoba sesitaw ngilolo kwenta ukuthi sitaw vele sibude kanti nasingathwala lithuba ukuthi bekhona libe nengibatha bathi sitabuya kuqhutshekwe bakukhulumise ngaleto tindlela fanele sikhulunyiswe ngato. Ngibuka ke ukuthi awu bekunene besithe 12 now is going for 1 sekufike kulesikhathi sekuthi kulomhlangano wanamhla salo sima sovala andike ngakusho ukuthi cha bantu abakethu kuphekiwe ngale kudla kutaba khona kuthi nasiphumana nasiyodla ngale la kudliwa khona kulesikhathi salo vele tanda noma ngitibona sethi yangiphandla noma ngitibona sethi yangiphandla letandla ngoba ukuthi ngisesendlulile kiko how I wish one day sesibe cancel meeting so that sitobona lokuthi kwenteka kanjani ngiko nje ngisho ngithi awu nabo ngeke bese ngiyabatshela isandla sethi yangiphandla manje sesiyavala sekufike leso sikhathi ukuthi indzaba kapheli kuluma futhi ngeke ukucethe kungakutafuna nje sikubuyele it is high time sesiyavala sicose kakhulu ukuthi awu Nkosi yami nomphakamisa chairperson awu sevele ameya akasakubona ukuphandlekile utawuva ngoba usuwathi ngumsisi ngicela ukuthi ikhansela hlengethwa sala usivalela.
can we all rise for closing prayer, please?
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for having guided us through the deliberations of this meeting. Grant us the serenity to accept all the resolutions that have been made as a collective. May we live recognizing that you are God of all wisdom and you are willing to lead us forward. We ask for your blessing and protection as we depart and travel our separate ways. In the name of Jesus, we pray.